I'm Brandon Manning, and I'm your host for U.S. Talks.
And I'm the co-host Brutus, aka Brute.
All right, Maura, tell us about the Congressional Reconstruction.
In 1866, Republicans were appalled by the mass killing of ex-slaves and adoption of restrictive black codes. They seized control of Reconstruction from President Johnson. The Congress denied the representatives from the former Confederate states their congressional seats and passed the Civil Rights Act of 1866, and then they wrote the 14th Amendment to the Constitution and Constitution exceeding citizen rights to African Americans.
Why did Congress oppose Johnson's plan?
Johnson's plan was to start out to switch the power from the old planter aristocracy to the small farmers and artisans of the South. And he promised to accomplish a revolution in Southern society. But by doing this, he also created black codes, which restricted the ability of blacks to own land and work as free laborers. So then it started a freedmen's borough. So Congress voted to renew the charter that had created the freedmen's borough in retaliation for the fact that it had stripped the borough of all of its power. But when they voted on that, the president has the power to veto that, so he did that. He vetoed it, and but then they did it again, and it passed for preserving the borough. But then the borough was weakened, and Congress terminated it in 1872.
All right, Maura, can you tell us about Johnson's impeachment?
Yeah. Andrew Johnson decided to get rid of Stanton, and he was the original Secretary of War. But Johnson got rid of him and appointed General Lorenzo Thomas as the new Secretary of War. But the House of Representatives had already talked about. After Johnson got rid of Stanton, the House of Representatives weren't too pleased, and they had already talked about impeachment after Andrew Johnson's first attempt of dismissal of Stanton, and they initialized a formal impeachment proceedings against the president. By February 24th, Johnson was impeached, and his trial began on March 26th. It ended March 26th. They needed 2/3 of the vote to be against Johnson, and they barely got that, but they did, so he's out of there.
Thank you so much, Maura. And we're back with Caleb Prieston. Tell us about sharecropping.
Well, you see, sharecropping is a system of agriculture in which a landowner rents out parts of his land to tenants who grow crops, and in return for renting the land, basically they have to share a percentage of the crops with the owner.
Thank you. What was the compromise in 1877 all about?
Okay, so the Compromise of 1877 was basically a bargain in which the White House was awarded the Republican Party after the election of 1876. Now, whether or not this negotiation took place, some of the supposed elements of the bargain were actually carried through, such as the removal of troops from the South and the appointment of a Southern cabinet member.
All right, thank you, Caleb. We're with Christina, and she's about to tell us about Jim Crow laws.
Yeah, Jim Crow laws are the state and local laws enforced for racial segregation in the southern states. They were around all the way until 1965. They forced economic and educational social disadvantages for them. And they were segregated in public schools, parks, public transportation. It was a big ordeal. And yeah, it's incredible.
All right, and I hear we reconstructed some amendments.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
We got the 13th, which was for slavery, and we fixed
abolished
that. Yeah, we fixed, yeah. And there was a 14th, citizenship and equal rights for everybody,
Awesome.
because everyone wants to be
Everyone's equal.
same. Yeah.
Correct.
And the 15th, which is African American rights to vote.
All right.
So everyone can vote now.
Sounds like a good deal.
Yes.
Thank you, Christina.
And we're back again with Brandon, and he's going to tell us about Lincoln's assassination.
Okay. Well, on the night of April 14th, Mr. Lincoln went to a play, and during the play, around Act 3, a man named John Wilkes Booth crept behind the president and shot him in the head. After he shot him, he jumped from the balcony and landed on his leg and broke it. He yelled something which is still unknown to this day. There's a lot of conspiracies about what he said. But somehow he escaped, and 12 days later, he was found in a Virginia tobacco barn and was shot by either himself or one of the cavalry members. Lincoln lived through the night somehow, and early April 15th, he died, and he was the first president to be assassinated.
Oh, that sounds terrible. Poor Lincoln. What about this 10% plan I've been hearing about? Could you tell us all about it?
Well, in order for states to be reinstated to the Union, they had to have 10% of the 1860 vote count from any state to take a pledge of allegiance to the U.S. Lincoln promised to protect the private property of these states, but the slaves were not protected. He wanted freedom for all and not some.
And that was Brandon on Interview.
Impeachment.
Well, if there's a head there, that's not good. There is.
There's not.
You have to pretend, Mara.
No, it's fine. It's fine.